Welcome to We Are Fine and Neither Are You, a podcast brought to you by two lifetime besties dealing with the beauty and messiness of midlife. Nothing is off limits. Let's get into it.
Okay, welcome back
Hi.
to We Are Fine and Neither Are You. I'm so excited to see you again.
I'm excited to be
So
here.
yes,
Just
all
wait, no,
right. So you
stop.
guys, yeah, we're trying to get this. We're getting little bits of we're getting better every time. So just bear with us. And we thought that before we start our second episode, or actually our actual first episode, the what you just saw last week was our intro. So thank you for coming back. And today will be women of a certain age. April will go
Yes.
into a little bit more of why we chose that title, but we thought it'd be nice if before we got into the episode we can kind of tell you a little bit about why our podcast is titled We Are Fine and Neither Are You. So, other than it's just super clever and funny, we just thought that was kind of a funny way to say that no one's really fine. I know I'm not.
Yeah. Well, I
And
know it's like it's funny because people are like, "Oh, hey, how are you doing?" And we're always like, "Oh, I'm fine." But really, like, we're not really fine, and neither are
no,
you.
no,
We just
exactly.
kinda we just fake being fine a lot,
Yeah,
because we
yeah,
don't wanna tell people how we're really feeling, and I think when we or, like, even, like, if your husband's like, "How are you?" And we're like, we're fine. I'm fine," you
yeah,
know?
yeah,
And it's like, he knows you're not fine. You just don't wanna, like, cause an argument, or maybe you just don't wanna talk. But, April and I, we were talking earlier, and we wrote down a few reasons why people say they're fine.
yeah,
And here's kind of a list of things I say, or I mean when I say I'm fine. And it's I'm stressed, burnout, I'm sad, I'm anxious. I can't really describe the feeling I'm having. I'm just like not
hmm,
normal. I have mixed emotions. I'm overwhelmed. And then you brought up that I don't feel safe to tell you how I really feel, or I don't trust my feelings, and you just want to disassociate from yourself. So
yeah,
that's kind of why we wanted to name this podcast We're Fine and Neither Are You, because we want to normalize, like, just saying how you
yeah,
feel. And
and not
most
being
of the time,
fine.
right, and most of the
Yeah,
time, and that's okay. And most of the
yeah,
times we're faking being well.
yes,
We're putting on this facade that everything's okay when, like, inside we're really struggling. So I think that, it's totally okay to tell people how you're really doing. And if you're not
yeah,
comfortable with that, that's fine too. But, like, with your friends and stuff and your family, you should be able to um articulate how you're feeling, and not just always be like,
yeah.
"Oh, I'm fine," and then just kind of hide in that world of fine.
And
So,
I think also with me, like with this whole journey that I'm on too, is I've learned with my little gurus that have been teaching me is, the very first thing I used to do in the morning is I'd jump out of bed and I'd be like, everything's great. Everything's going to be fine. And she said to me, before you even get out of bed, you need to just kind of center and connect with your body and just really ask yourself, like, what percentage am I at right now? That's
mhm,
before you get on your phone. That's before you check your voicemails or your emails or anything. Like, just be still with yourself for a second and just say, okay, like, am I at a 50%? Am I at 20%? Do I feel like crap today? Do I feel great today?
yeah,
And, for me, I have learned I'm starting to hone in so well on feeling good physically because what I've learned too is I'm very mental. I don't like to be in my body. I find myself trying to do things to either numb out or kind of disassociate. So the more I can be in my body and like really go, huh, like, okay, I feel good today. What did I do last night to help me feel this way? So that
mhm,
has really helped me kind of figure out my own body, which is crazy. I'm almost 47 years old. You would think that I would know that by now, but I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe you girls out there that are listening and men, who knows if we'll have men listeners, but really check with yourself. Like when you wake up in the
yeah.
morning, like, are you going into that I'm fine mode, or are you allowing yourself to, not that you want to ruin anyone's day, including your own, because attitude is everything, right? Like you can turn it around. But I
Mhm.
do think like honor yourself and allow yourself to have those semi, not a little high, little low days, and that's all okay. Don't
Right,
push
right.
through it if that's not what you're feeling.
And I think too, sometimes you just worry about oversharing. Sometimes I
Yes.
can be an overshare. So I get it if you're not wanting to tell everybody that you're having a bad day or you're struggling. But to your point, like, it's okay to be in your own body and like acknowledge those feelings and why are you feeling that way, and maybe you can do some
Yep.
tweaks in your life to feel better. So anyway, that's kind of the gist of why we
Yeah.
decided to name this podcast We're Fine and Neither Are You. And thank you for bearing with us. We might be a little clunky in the beginning. We're not tech savvy at
We're not
all.
even claiming to be.
Yeah, not at all. And hopefully we'll get more savvy as we go along, but it's a learning process for us. And so
Yeah.
hopefully things will look different in the next few months. But right now we're really excited just to get out there. So we're like, who cares if we don't know all the techie stuff? And
Yeah.
um, we just want to get our little message out there and our forum and just start talking. So
Yeah.
today we are going to be talking about women of a certain age, and women of a certain age are women who are no longer young but are not old yet. So we're kind of like in this little midlife situation, and there's beauty and there's messiness in it, and we want to tackle it all because we have gone through some pretty wild stuff in our life, and a lot of it has been very parallel, which is kind of scary
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
interesting. It's like a sim,
Yeah.
but also we've been through some awesome stuff, and we've just
Yeah.
matured. And I think women in their 40s go through sort of a metamorphosis, renaissance type thing. And we just wanted to like talk about all that stuff. And in that comes menopause and perimenopause and menopause. And
Yeah.
that's scary when you don't feel like yourself anymore. And so this episode is going to be based kind of on that, just how
Yeah.
we've navigated perimenopause and menopause, as we both like. I think you said you feel like you're already in
Yeah.
menopause.
I am
um,
definitely.
and just kind of what our symptoms were, how we knew when it started, what we're doing.
Hmm. Yep.
And yeah, so did you want to start with
Yeah. Yeah, so we made some
we're gonna
bullet points, you guys. So we're going to kind
yeah,
of go through these little things that so we can keep our thoughts straight. But I think, when I think of menopause, I think of like when my mom, I remember she had like a Lordy Lordy Melodies 40 party.
yeah,
And I remember as a kid, like as a teenager, thinking 40 was it. Then you're over
yeah,
the hill,
it's old.
40.
I
Like, come
know.
on, that's nothing now.
I
But
couldn't wait to turn 40. I was
yeah,
excited.
right? But it's like, but when I remember seeing my mom turn 40, I was like, "Oh my gosh." Like, I just remember thinking like, that's when you're old. And so my mama went into menopause in her 40s. And so I found out through my OBGYN that you can actually go into menopause even as early as 10 years earlier than your own mother has gone
Wow.
into menopause. So, I think at least I did. I thought menopause was like old, and it's really
Hmm.
not. I mean, it's basically, you and I were kind of talking yesterday really quickly that they were saying that by the time you're 30, you only have 10% of your eggs left. So
Yeah,
really it's like we had this ticking this clock with our fertility and our periods and all that. So basically menopause is, I've been told that once you stop bleeding for a year, so you've
yeah,
gone a whole year without having a period, then that's really like, okay, it's happening. Now a lot of times people can have like a really heavy flow for a few months beforehand. It'll be like 1 month you'll have it, then you'll skip a few months. So if that's starting to happen for you guys, definitely go and get it checked out, either with your OB if you feel comfortable, talking to your OB about that. Some OBs just don't know. That's another reason
hmm,
why April and I want to do this. Is there's a couple podcasts, and when we get down to the what have we found, we'll let you know those podcasts to listen to, because these doctors are finally saying enough is enough. Women's health needs to be way more educated. We need to have way more
hmm,
information and a lot more help too. I mean, I feel like we're
right,
all grasping at straws right now to like, am I losing my mind? Why can't I lose weight? Why am I sweating at night? Where's my sex drive? That kind of thing. So the
right.
first point that we're going to kind of chat about is, how did you know it was happening? So I'll start since I'm chatting right
Okay.
now, but my how do I know it was happening was I just stopped having a period. So I was like, that's really weird. Like, I used to be very regular, and I felt like I was kind of losing my mind. I wasn't able to keep my emotions in the way I normally was. I felt very reactive. So about just dumb stuff.
Yeah,
And then of course I started getting the hot flashes. And for me, the hot flashes was, I'm an esthetician, so I'd be at work and I have a steamer on me and I would feel it on the back of my neck. and it would almost feel like a and it felt like my whole torso would just get hot, and it would just
Mhm.
dewy face, that kind of a thing. And then and then I was starting to get belly fat, which I'm hippie. I've got a booty and hips, but my belly was always something that would not hold body fat, and it
Yeah.
did. So I was lucky enough that I have a functional doctor, a functional medicine doctor. So she specializes in hormones, and she said, "Let's get your hormones tested. It's a blood draw, and they do everything on your hormones." And so that's when she said, "Oh, you're in menopause." And I was telling
How
April,
old were you?
so this was, I want to say, maybe a year, maybe 2 years ago, a year ago. You guys, after COVID, I don't know what time is anymore. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
was this pre-COVID, post-COVID? So I want to say maybe it was a couple years. It's been a couple years for me to go all the way into like you're in menopause. But I remember crying. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, like I got a little emotional because to me it's like menopause is as if I would have another kid, but that's it. Like, there's no more having
Mhm.
babies. Like, you're in that next stage of your life.
Right.
And I was like, whoa, I'm only, so if I'm 47, 6, 5, I was 45 years old.
Right.
So that was like, ooh, but it's a slow burn too for some people. It's not like you just wake up one day and you're in menopause unless something has happened in your life. Like, I've had a friend who has had breast cancer, and that pushed her into menopause sooner
Yeah.
than normal. So anyways, so that's how I found out. How about you? What were your
So
symptoms and
I
stuff?
didn't, it was interesting because I was having such horrible periods that like it would just be very painful. And
Yeah.
so well, let me back up a little bit. So I was feeling very depressed and kind of hopeless. And I go through moments where I'm blue, but like I don't really get like super depressed. I wouldn't
Right.
classify myself as a depressed person. And I started feeling like super depressed and I was just like this is not normal.
Yeah.
So there was that, and I had different times where I went to doctors and kind of talked to them about it because I felt like I get on something, which I'm not. For me, I don't. I didn't feel comfortable getting on antidepressant medication. I just
Yeah.
didn't feel comfortable doing it. And if it works for some people, I'm totally supportive of it. Just for me, just wasn't the road I wanted to go down. But I was kind of getting closer and closer to accepting the idea of it because I just wanted to feel better. And I
Right.
think a lot of the depression came from not feeling um, like myself anymore.
Right.
And but also we were going through COVID again. We're going through COVID.
Yep.
We had just moved from one state to another state, so that's stressful. So I think perimenopause kind of got lost in there a little bit. I didn't know
Right.
it was that because I had all these other stressors in my life. And so that was kind of something that was like a red flag in the beginning was like just not feeling like myself, feeling depressed. Another thing was just having awful periods, very painful,
Yeah.
in bed for like 2 days. So that was because 'cause I've always been pretty regular, with that. So those were kind of the 2, and then the belly fat, of course, and not being able
Right.
to lose weight as easily as I had in the
Yep.
past. Again, I tend to be more bottom heavy, so my stomach has always been kind of easy to I've always had a flat stomach, so that was upsetting to me.
Right.
Um, and so that's kind of what when I started thinking like, well, maybe I'm going through menopause. Also, irritable. And so I went to my doctor and she wanted to put me on birth control. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
What the heck?
I'm in my
Weird.
40s. I'm not having any more kids. Like, why is that my only solution? Because
Yeah.
that wasn't just one time. Like multiple times, they're like, well, we can just put you on birth control. And I think it's because of the estrogen in the
Yeah.
birth control pills, like, that's a way to get your hormone or whatever, but I was just like, "There's
Right.
gotta be a better solution, right?" And in the meantime, I was still continuing to have these horrible periods, and so my OB was like, "Well, have you thought about having the uterine ablation?" Which is where they go in and kind of, like, fry the lining of your uterus, so it's like you don't slough that off anymore and you just don't get a
Right.
period anymore. And I thought, "Well, you know what? I'm gonna do that because
Yeah.
this is just too much to bear. I couldn't do it anymore." And so I did that. And so but now I haven't had a period, but I don't know if it
Right.
you're in menopause when you don't have a period for a year, but I haven't had a period in
Right.
2 years because I had that
Right.
surgery. So
Yeah.
I don't totally know if I'm in full on menopause
Now,
or
have
if
you
I'm
had your
still in
hormones
peri.
done? Like, did she do a blood work on you? Because they
She
can
she
tell by your blood work if
she
you're in
she
menopause.
didn't, but the
Okay.
only so we can get to the what we've done to
Yeah.
help us through.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how I just kind of deduced, that I was getting
Yep.
like either in peri or in menopause, just given like my body changes, holding on to more fat, kind of my mood swings. I haven't had hot flashes yet. So yeah, I mean that's kind of what I noticed about myself. And I just,
Yeah.
like I said, I just kind of like deduce like, oh, I'm in menopause. I mean, it's that time, 47 years old. It's funny. I never knew, my mom never talked about going through menopause. Like, not
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
So I didn't really go through that with her. We
A
talk
lot
about
of
it
women
now.
of our mom's age is like they suffered in silence,
Yeah,
that
we didn't really talk
generation.
about it. So,
Yeah. But boy,
again,
we
we
do.
talk, yeah. Oh yeah. We're just like diarrhea of the mouth. We're like,
Yeah,
we,
you're gonna
because
know
we just want to,
everything about everything.
well, because well, there's a
Yeah.
lot of information and then there's not enough. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
doctors aren't they, what my doctor even told me, like, we spent like 30 minutes on menopause in med school. Like, they
Mhm.
just didn't spend a lot of
Unacceptable.
time on it, right? It's
Yep.
like, well, that just
Yep.
tells you right there how much they care about women's health. But now I think women are fed up and there's more,
Yep.
especially on social media, you see there's all kinds of like supplements and stuff for women going
Yep.
through menopause, which is great. And there's more women doctors coming out talking about menopause and helping us kind of navigate it. But I mean, that's just been recently. So I feel like, I
Yep.
mean, we've been going through this for a couple of years. So we're already kind of like doing our own thing and
Yeah.
like biohacking menopause a bit. Like, how can
Yep.
we, help ourselves? So they're starting to catch up, but they're behind. Like, we're already like, no, we're doing stuff. So it's great that
I
they're coming
know.
out and saying like, you need to take, these supplements, whatever.
Yep.
But like, I was like too little, too late. Like, I'm already in my thing.
Exactly.
So,
Yep.
and
Yep.
that's kind of how mine
Okay.
started. But and you already said, I guess our next bullet point was when did you start feeling the change? And you said probably a
Yep.
couple of years ago. And mine was
Yeah.
probably the same. Mine was probably the same a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm 47. So probably around 44,
Yep.
45 is when I started noticing it. So
Yep.
yeah, I've been dealing
Yeah.
with it for a couple of years.
Yep. And then I
We already
know the
talked
next
about,
one we had said, signs and symptoms. And
I mean, we
everybody
kind
can
of
have
addressed
something
that.
different. Yeah. I just think that, if you're feeling off, like, you have to be your own advocate. You have to, if your doctor isn't doing what you need them to do, go find a different doctor or find a functional medicine doctor.
Hmm.
Or, do research. Like, there is a lot of information out there. And like you were saying, April, like, some of it can be great and some can feel overwhelming and some feels like it's contradicting. I mean, obviously we're not doctors. We're just telling you guys what we've gone through, what's worked for us.
Right.
And ultimately you are your own person. You have to be your own advocate. So I don't know, like, for me, I really, I'm so thankful that I have found the doctors that I have found to help me through this. But you just definitely need to be like your own advocate. I would just want to definitely make sure of that. But yeah, I think we kind of went over the signs and symptoms, like,
Yeah.
the moodiness, the weight gain, you can't sleep at night. A lot of
Yeah.
people will feel
Yeah.
like insomnia. Yeah, or you're too hot. What else? What other things? Obviously not having a period, feeling depressed, maybe not even like enjoying your life the way it was. Unfortunately, there's a lot of women that are going through menopause and later in life that feel like they don't even want to live anymore. So, it's
Right.
it's a lot of chemical stuff going in our
Mental.
minds.
Yeah.
Like,
I
yes.
think I think one of the hardest parts for me was, just my body and my face changing because
Yeah.
I've always felt very confident, and of course to a degree of looking a certain way and when you start seeing those changes and it's like, some women don't feel sexy anymore and that's going to
Mhm.
affect, your libido
Everything.
probably too. It's going to affect
Yeah.
everything. So I think one of the things, and we'll get to it later, but it's just like, how do we continue to like feel beautiful and feel sexy
Yeah.
and like our life's not over. It's just
Yep.
it's like the second chapter and we
Yeah.
can still be like
It can be
beautiful
great.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and it's not like, oh, things are going downhill. No, you got to like shift our thinking there.
Mhm.
So I think we should talk about some of the things that we're doing that are helping. Like
Yes.
let's get into that because I think that's
Okay.
what people want to hear. So why don't you go
Yes.
ahead?
Okay, so the things that I have found to help me is I with my functional medicine, she got me on estradiol and progesterone, and that really helped me. So that balanced my hormones. The progesterone helped me sleep at night. I love coffee, but I try to kind of limit my caffeine intake as I have this next to me. This is just going to give me a little boost. But I try to really be aware of my diet, and I love exercising. I love walking. It's another thing I found to help. I don't really do like the hit workouts anymore like I used to. It's more weightlifting and walking. I love doing a sauna. Mine's a lot of meditation. I feel like for me in menopause, I've really found that the more self-care I give myself, the better. Even
Mhm,
if it means like I'm gonna take a nap and not feel guilty, or I'm gonna
mhm,
tell the kids like it's your turn to make dinner tonight. I just think that you really need to show up for yourself. But as far as like physically, got for me, I had to get on the hormones, like the estradiol and the progesterone really, really helped. And then I just listened to a podcast that we'll get to. And what the doctor was saying, if you're not horny, you're not healthy. And that was
yeah,
like, whoa, oh my gosh. And so I had my functional doctor test my testosterone, and we realized that I needed to supplement that too. So I'm using a compound pharmacy for that. And that's been really helping too. So again, it's just basically trying to either keep yourself at that regular normal level that you're at, or bringing yourself up to feeling good if your normal
mhm,
isn't a good feel. So for
right,
me, it's just a lot of self care, good amount of rest, lots of magnesium. Magnesium has been my best friend too at night. It really helps me sleep. And I love collagen. I'm doing the colostrum, the Armora colostrum. It's like a little powder that I take. So be experimental. It's not a one size fits all. And just because something works for your friend doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you. But for me,
mhm,
that's really helped a lot. And just doing like good quality skincare, lots of water. They say you're supposed to drink half of your body weight in water. So that's crazy. And then fiber. So I'll let you kind of go into that too, April, because I know you're really good with that. But so that's basically what I've done to help me.
yeah,
And it's been good.
awesome. So I,
Yeah.
again, like I went into my doctor multiple times saying that I felt like I was in menopause and I needed help, and not once did she ask to check my hormone levels. Like, let's just check your hormone. Let's see where your
Yep.
estrogen levels are. Let's see where your testosterone levels are. Because I'm like, I have no libido.
Right.
Um, I don't sleep well. I'm depressed. Like I had all these symptoms, which I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I'm like diagnosing myself with menopause. She
Yeah.
never once said, let's check your testosterone. Let's
Mm.
check your anyway. So thankfully, a girlfriend of mine was like, have you heard of the BioT pellet? And I'm like, no, what is that? And she goes, well, it's a pellet for women who are going through menopause, who are typically low in like estrogen or testosterone. And they insert this little pellet through, like, they make a little incision in your buttock, which doesn't hurt at all. And then they put it in, and it helps raise your testosterone, and it's estradiol and testosterone. And it's a plant-based, so it's bioidentical, so it's identical to what your body already makes, and it's plant-based, so it's not the, hormone replacement, like, that comes from the urine of pregnant mares. That's how you get your
Yeah.
that's how they were doing the estrogen in the past. This is plant-based, so I felt good about that, but again,
Yep.
I did a ton of research. Everybody do your own research.
Yeah.
So I went, and it's done usually, not at your doctor's office. It's done, I go to actually a plastic surgeon's office to have it done. So
Hmm.
all you have to do is go on the BioT website and put in your zip code, and it'll tell you the closest provider that offers it. But they do your blood work. So that was the first time I got my blood work done,
Yeah.
and I got it back, and the PA who did my blood work and called me with my results was like, your testosterone is at 14, and
Wow.
for healthy women it should be between 150 and 250. And
Right.
I don't remember my estrogen numbers because they weren't as low, but they were lower, but they weren't like
Right.
dire like my testosterone. And
Right.
I'm like, well, no wonder
I
I
know.
have no libido. I'm like, I was about to
Mhm.
go tell my husband to go get like a little side piece because I'm like, I don't know how to help you right now, you know?
Too much pressure, too much pressure. I
But
know, I
no,
know.
I'm kidding. But I felt awful because I'm like, I want to
Yeah,
be
of
able to like have
course.
that, and I just physically could not bring myself to do it. And so, so what they do is they take your numbers from your blood work and they put it into a system which creates an algorithm that then tells the machine how much of the estradiol and how much testosterone to put in this pellet.
Yep,
And then they insert that pellet. So it's made specifically for you. They insert it, and then it takes about 3, sometimes 4 weeks to start working, but then it lasts for about 4 to 5 months. So you have to, do it a couple times, 2 to 3 times a year, depending on. You can take little breaks in between if you want. But I mean, my first one, I can't even tell you how life changing it was. It was like
yeah,
I felt great. I saw. Oh, the other thing is you have to take progesterone at night because of the
yep,
estradiol
yeah,
in the pellet. Because if you don't, the estradiol will kind of tear up your uterus. You need to have like the progesterone to help balance it.
right,
Um, and the progesterone helps me sleep like a baby. I love it.
yep,
But I mean, who knew? I was so low in testosterone. I mean, that was like,
yeah,
to be honest with you, going back, I probably could have just used like a testosterone cream, and I may just try
yeah,
that, you know.
yeah. Well, and
But
that's why
right
we're telling you
now,
guys the different options. There's always
right? I
options.
mean, you could, and the thing about the pellets, some doctors don't love it because it's like once it's in, like you can't take it out. Like with the creams,
Right.
if you can just stop using
You
it,
can regulate it. Yeah,
right? And I happen to like it because I just don't like to fuss with things every day. So I'm like, I
right.
like that I don't have to think about it. It's just there.
Exactly.
Now, I will say you do like if you're starting to feel like you might have too much testosterone. So they do test you again. You do your blood work again after you get the pellet, after you're like halfway through. So it's fully in your system. So
Right.
then you can see where your testosterone and estrogen levels are to make sure that it's like either not, you don't have too much or not enough. And then they can adjust the levels in that pellet. So anyway, so
Right.
that's what I've done. It's been wonderful. Um, and then on top of that, you also have to maintain a healthy diet and you have to work out.
Mhm.
And for women of our age, you need to be to remain healthy in your now and moving forward into your golden years. You need to be lifting
Yeah.
weights and you need to be lifting heavy weights. I mean, start out,
Right.
low and make sure if you get a trainer, if
But
you don't
don't be
really
scared of
know,
them.
but don't be scared. Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
lifting heavy weights is huge. Walking, if you're not a big cardio person, that's fine. I mean, they're saying now like intense cardio doesn't really do a lot for you anymore, and it could cause more
Right.
damage. So I will do the Peloton, but I just love to walk. Like you, I like to be outside in
Right.
the sun. It brings me
Yep.
like happiness. You need that vitamin D, and it's good for your circadian rhythm to get out in the morning and
Yep.
walk. So I do love walking, but healthy foods. So I'll try and be quick. Fiber and protein, like two of the most important things you could be eating. And
Yep.
I try to eat fiber and protein at every single meal. High protein diet. I'll drink protein shakes if I feel like I'm not getting enough protein, or um, I'll also add, some frozen zucchini to my shakes. I was telling you earlier,
That was a good point. You guys
instead
listen
of
to this.
frozen
How
banana,
genius
yes.
is this?
So a good friend of mine who is 51 and she's in amazing shape. She's looks great, works out a lot, counts her macros, and she was telling me I had all this leftover zucchini from the garden, and I'm like, I don't know, this is gonna go bad.
Instead
And
of
she's
making
like,
zucchini bread,
yeah,
right?
she's like,
I know, you hear about that.
chop it up in chunks and freeze it. And I was like, really? She's like, put it in your shakes. She's like, it takes when you put a frozen banana in your shake and it
Yep.
makes it like creamy and yummy. Well, that you get the same effect with the zucchini, but you don't get all that sugar because bananas have a lot of
Yeah.
sugar. So if you're trying to cut back on sugar, it's just such a great alternative. So that's been
Right.
good for me. And on top of it, I do take supplements. I take vitamin D, which I had no idea was a hormone. I mean, my whole life, I thought it was just
Mhm.
like, you get vitamin D from the sun, but
Right.
most people do have a vitamin D deficit. So this is
Yeah.
where it's really important to go see your doctor and just demand that they take your blood and check your hormone levels.
Absolutely.
Just demand it, because the fact that I didn't
Mhm.
get that is ludicrous.
It's
It's like
unacceptable. Yeah,
it's unacceptable. So I'm
I
just
agree.
checking my notes here to make sure I hadn't forgotten anything. Oh, the other
Well, I
thing
was
that
gonna pop
happens,
in too and tell you with
yeah,
the hormones and stuff before we, like, get really into the diet part. Also, ladies, if you're having painful sex, or if you're extremely dry, there is a cream that you can use now. So I'm
Mhm.
also on, I want to say it's like an estradiol cream, and you can put it inside you, you can put it on the outside, but you do not have to have painful sex. I had some of my girlfriends say that it almost feels like it's tissue paper down there. And
Mhm.
you're just kind of like gritting through it, and it doesn't have to be that way. It just, there's a lot of help for us. So
Right.
again, finding a functional doctor that can do the compound pharmacy thing,
Right.
but it doesn't have to be like, "Oh my gosh, I don't ever wanna have sex again." So, I just
Well,
wanted
yeah,
to
and
mention that
yeah,
too.
I think you bring up a good point. Like both of us have been denied or like just not given information or kind of brushed to the side or not taken seriously.
Mhm.
And I think what the most important thing to do is to like demand, like, no, I want this
Yes.
done.
Yep.
Because, I know it can be scary sometimes because the doctor, you think they know everything. But I
Yep.
think sometimes they get lazy or
Yep.
they just are like, I just
Well, they
think
just
you
don't
need to
know.
yeah, just be assertive. You have to be assertive.
Exactly.
Um,
Yes, yes, yes. Okay.
no, just the other thing really quick. I know this is actually we were kinda maybe this might have to be a two-parter because this is
Yeah.
mostly about menopause, and I know there's so much more to midlife than menopause. I mean,
Right.
but there's so much more I wanna talk about, but I think just to kind of, um, finish up the whole, like, what we're doing going through menopause,
Mhm.
we talked about diet. We talked about, you need to have protein and fiber, very important. The other thing to watch out for is cholesterol, high cholesterol.
Yep.
So during menopause, I have a cardiologist, and that's a whole nother episode.
Mm.
But my cardiologist said that they're finding through research that there is an uptick in women with high cholesterol during going through menopause. So there's like a direct
Mhm.
correlation with high cholesterol and women in menopause. And so she put me on like a natural herbal supplement first to try and lower my cholesterol because my cholesterol is a little bit elevated, which I've never in my life had high cholesterol. So that didn't really work. So I am on a cholesterol medication that I take 3 times a week. But I would definitely have get your cholesterol checked because
Yeah.
high cholesterol obviously we know leads to heart disease. And just so you know, just to give you some numbers here, your LDL is your bad cholesterol. So
Right.
L you want to keep low. Okay.
Oh, that's a
So
good
that
way to remember it.
yeah,
Okay.
L keep low, and you want that less than 100. You want your LDL to be less than 100, and then your
Okay.
HDL is your good cholesterol, and that you want to keep at 50 or higher. So, like a healthy, like total cholesterol, you want to keep it try and keep it under 200 for total
Okay.
cholesterol. Just so you know, because I know it's like it's super confusing, like the good
Yeah.
cholesterol and the bad cholesterol.
Now, have you
Um,
ever seen your blood work, April? Like, do you get the
I have.
printout? Because
I do.
just,
Yeah, they give it to me.
yeah,
Mhm,
because what I like
mhm.
about the one I do is so the things that are good are on green, my numbers are in green. And the
Yeah,
things that are not, they're in red. So
right. It's
you can read
easy.
your own blood work and
Yeah,
just see, and it'll
yeah,
say like healthy range, unhealthy range. So become familiar with that yourself so that you're
right.
not just like relying on your doctor to tell you everything.
Exactly,
But
exactly. I
yeah,
mean, I'm not
that's,
trying to be like a conspiracy theorist or anything because doctors are
yeah,
amazing and I have some fabulous
yeah,
doctors. But there are some
yeah,
who are better than others, and I think that
yeah,
you also just need to be like a participant in your health and
yes,
you need to read all that stuff. And
yep,
it's super
yep.
important.
Get
Really quick,
passionate about it. Yeah.
before we go back, I did have a note here that I wanted to talk about, like some of the superfoods that are important to eat during,
Mm,
I mean, anytime they're great. They're great for your kids, they're great for your husband, but also like lentils are a huge source of
yep.
fiber and protein.
Oh
I
yeah.
try and eat, like I said, fiber and protein at every meal. Lentils are amazing. They're a good meat substitute, but they're just like a great superfood and a really good meat replacement. They have iron as well, protein, fiber, iron. I mean, it's kind of like a great
Yeah.
trifecta.
And everyone
So
knows
that,
about the lentil recipe from Trader Joe's, really
oh
quick.
yeah, that's
You get the
amazing.
lentils, you get the little container of bruschetta, and then you can add, feta to it or whatever. You mix that up, you guys, it's so good. I could eat that like soup almost, and you can dip a
Yeah,
cracker in it, so definitely make sure you're making that.
exactly. It's so good. And then I mean, I don't know if you have anything to add to that. I think, another thing I would like to mention is just so we've talked about like supplements, we've talked about hormones, we've talked about diet. But I think one
Mhm.
other thing that's really important as we're kind of navigating this new world in midlife is also just having a sense of purpose. And I
Yeah.
think that that is kind of what I mean, I'd love to keep going and have a whole, but I think we might need to make this a part 2 because
Right.
that's a
Yeah.
whole 'nother discussion. And like what about a couple years ago, I decided to go back to college and finish my degree. And I wrote a paper about the blue zones, and I got really into the blue zones, which, if you're not familiar, there are 5 places in the world that are considered blue zones. And in those blue zones, they have the highest number of centenarians, and which are people who live to be 100 years or older. So it's Sardinia, Italy. Um, there's one in Greece, there is one in Costa Rica, I believe it's called like Nicola in Costa Rica. Um, I'll fact check this. Loma Linda, California, and Okinawa, Japan. And so they all follow like these simple, just life habits. And one of them that I wanted to talk about was it's called Ikigai. And ikigai is basically means like iki means to live and gai means
Right.
reason. So it's like reason to live. So you need to get up every day with like what's your sense of purpose, right? And so a lot of them it's like a lot of these villages are they have like older people are living with their families or they have friends in town. They're getting up and tending to their gardens. They have something to do every day.
Mhm.
And I
Yep.
think that's what's so important at this time of our lives too, is like trying to kind of figure out what our ikigai is. Like what's our sense of
Right.
purpose? Because it's like you want to be healthy in the mind and the body. And I really think having a reason to get out of bed every day is like paramount.
100%. Yes,
And
because,
not just like
you
get
have
out of I was just gonna say really quick, not just get out of bed because you have to like make breakfast and da da da, like a rat
right.
race. It's like what brings me joy? What's gonna like help me in this day? Like what am
Yeah.
I gonna look forward to in this day to do? So
Yeah, and that's something that I have just recently, I would say, like, within the last few years, I have really become in love with my life. Like, get in
mhm.
love with your life. Find what really brings you joy, even if it's not your whole life, maybe you're working a job that you have to work and you just don't really like it, but that's the way it is right now. But find something that brings you so much joy and then do more of that, because the more joy you have in your life, the better. I don't care what it is. It could be anything. But
Yeah.
man, if you get on fire and in love with your own life and your surroundings and just finding out who you really truly are, I think that's also something that is our renaissance. Is like we finally get to realize who we are. We're no longer, I mean, at least with me, my kids are pretty self-sufficient now. I'm not like in that mommy mode anymore. I'm not in I may always be in a wife mode, but even
Yeah.
my husband, like he's finding his own joy and we're together too, but it's like I'm just really discovering myself and I am on fire for it and it's exciting. And then like, oh, I
Yeah.
love doing this and I like doing that or whatever it is. So get on fire for yourself
Right.
too.
Right.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
I love that. And obviously going through menopause can be challenging. And it's I feel like a little bit of a warrior right now, like trying to navigate through it because it's not for the faint of heart. And
No, no.
I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job of
Hmm.
figuring it out. I mean, I go through ups and downs with it, but I think, it's fine. I think the other thing that I think that has helped me through it is the fact that I have gone through this renaissance in my 40s where I feel like I'm more
Yeah.
confident in my brain. I think going back to school has given me a ton of confidence. I just feel like I have my whole life ahead of me. I talked about that in the first episode, and I'm really excited
Yeah.
about this next phase in my life. And
Yep.
I think it's important to everything is connected, and so you have to really take care of yourself through this time in your life,
Yeah.
um, so that you can come out the end, when your kids are gone and it's
Yeah.
just you and your husband, or even just you and your friends, whatever it
Yep.
is,
Yep.
um, that you're ready for that and you're gonna like hit the
Yep.
ground running and be happy and healthy and live a very an awesome life. So
Yeah. And if there's something that you've always dreamt about, like what you were saying, I mean, here I am, I'm just getting into acting. I live in California and I'm so excited to, get into the commercial world. And of course the Hallmark movie is my ultimate dream. But I mean, a lot of people be like, "What? You can't do that." But don't let anyone tell you what you can and can't do. I don't
Yeah.
care what your dream is. If you've always wanted to be a chef, if you've always wanted to own a landscaping business, if you like pottery, if you want to
Mhm.
write, like whatever it is, it's this is your life and we
Right.
have to start showing up for ourselves, whatever that is.
Well,
And
yep.
some dreams are pretty crazy and they're like,
Right.
yeah, right, but why not? Like, and what's really cool about this age too for me is I don't give a crap anymore. Like
Yeah.
I'm not really embarrassed like I used to be. I don't really care what people think about me like I used to. Like as long as I'm
Yeah.
showing up for myself and I'm having a good time, people can think whatever they want. It's like the Mel Robbins, let them.
Yeah.
Just let
Yep.
them,
Exactly.
let it go and just live your life. So yeah,
Well,
definitely.
I think for me, it was like, well, I never got to finish my college degree. Like I did go to
Mhm.
college, but I never finished. And so it's really important to me. It's something that's always been in the back of my mind and something I've been kind of insecure about. And it's not that I judge other people who have never finished college. I have good friends who've never went to college, and I think they're some of the
Uh-huh.
smartest people, and I love
Yeah.
them to
That
death. And
doesn't equate smart.
I don't
Yeah.
even think twice about it with them. But for myself, I
Yeah.
just give myself such a hard time about it. But anyway, so I had a point that I was going to make about that.
Just
Oh
like
well, this
chasing
is
your
what
dreams and
happens
don't
when
let
you're.
don't let what people
Oh, I know what it is. I was like, you know what? Well, gosh, by the time I finish, I'm probably going to be 50. Like, what am I? But it's like, okay, well, I can either be 50 with a college degree or 50 without one. So it's
exactly.
like, what are you
Yeah.
going to do? I
And
mean, I
even
know,
more than that, April, you know what I would say? You're 50 chasing your dreams and fulfilling
right.
your dreams. Who gives a crap if it's a college degree or not? I mean, that's
Yeah.
amazing. But I think the point is 50 and doing what you want. And what you
Well,
want
yeah.
requires a degree,
Well, yeah.
but
And
it
if,
might
if
not for everybody.
Well, right, exactly, and I may
Mhm.
be like, "Look, I'm going towards that goal," but if something comes up that I feel like is better or more exciting to me, then
Exactly.
that's fine. I mean, I can always quit school and follow that
Yep.
road, but at least it's, like,
Yeah.
given me the
You're doing
confidence to
something.
yeah, to also just, like, be confident in my opinion and putting it out there because there's no way in hell you could have gotten me in front of a camera to talk about this stuff, if I hadn't probably done that, because it's like, "Oh, well,
Uh,
why do people wanna hear from me? I'm nobody, like, no one
right.
knows who
But
I
you
am,
so
and
are.
why do they wanna hear about this from me?" But it's more than
Mhm.
that. It's not that I'm, like, claiming to be any sort of an expert. It's just like,
Right.
this is my experience. I wanna know what other people's experience is. I want this
Right.
to be, like, a conversation, like, how can we help each other? So, I feel like more women need to put it out there, and so I'm excited to just, like, have
Hear what they
this
think too.
place. Yeah, because I
Yep.
would love for people to write in and ask questions. We can answer them. Tell us what you're
Yep.
doing. We
Yep.
will have experts on when we get, to a point where people want to come on here and trust us.
Yeah.
But,
Yep.
again, I just wanna say thanks to people who are listening because,
Yes.
again, we're gonna be a little clunky in the beginning,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's gonna be it might be a little bouncy.
Yeah.
My computer
But
is
we don't
on,
care. I don't care. I
my
don't care.
computer's balancing on a shoebox and 2 books right now. So,
Yeah.
it's
Exactly.
like we're good.
And mine's balancing and I have 7% battery. So I mean it's this is
Okay.
guys, this is life. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
listen, when you said experts, let us lead you to some direction and you have a little homework to do. So
Mhm.
on our podcast list of things that I have really loved. So, first would be the Mel Robbins. Now, she doesn't number her episodes unless she does, and I can't figure it out, but it's the one that's titled The Number One Menopause Doctor. So, listen to
Mhm.
that one. That one has a lot of really good information on it. And that was the doctor that we had mentioned in the other episode, the Dr. Jewel, what was her
Doctor
name?
Mary Claire.
Yes, so
Doctor Mary
that's
Claire.
she has her on
Yeah,
that, and she's got a
she's
great
amazing.
book on menopause too, which is really
Well,
good.
and
It's like
Doctor
it's a
Mary
diet one.
Claire Doctor Mary Claire's also on Instagram, so you have to follow her. Like,
Yes,
she's
follow her.
incredible.
Yep, yep. And
Um,
then, the Opreas open mic. She's the one that does Pretty Muscles. She's the
oh,
trainer for, Carrie Underwood. I don't know if you follow her,
okay,
but
I don't
she's got a
follow
really
her.
great. Okay, so on hers, it's called Opreas or Opre. I'm not quite sure how to
Après,
pronounce her last name. Opre,
après.
yeah. Open Mic, that's the name of their podcast. It's her and her husband, but she has two episodes. One is season 2, episode 14, and that was with Dr. Pascal. I believe it's how you pronounce her name. And then season 2, episode 1. So there's two that she has that talks all about hormones and all the different things that we've kind of touched on, but a doctor is there too validating
Mhm.
everything that we were talking about. So that's really good. Find yourself a functional medicine doctor. So that's going to be the one that really focuses on hormones. So your OBGYN can test you to see if you're in menopause. That's great. They're great for our female health, but functional doctors are more hormone focused.
Mhm.
So that's a really good one. And then let's see what else. Okay,
Do
yeah.
some
So that's
do some research on the BioT pellet
yeah,
if you think that that's something that might be
yeah,
of interest to you. Um,
right. And just know that there's
and
options.
yeah,
I mean that's I think the most important thing. And get to talking,
I
guys.
was just
We
gonna
do not have
say,
to keep.
hopefully you're talking to your girlfriends about this. Hopefully you guys
Yeah,
are all comfortable talking to each other about this because I bet you guys
yeah.
are all doing like just share your information. That was the other thing. We just no gatekeeping. Like I'm not going to make
No,
you listen to a 30-minute spiel to then pay me $40. So I'll tell you what. I mean,
exactly.
no. Like this is
And
what we're
leave us
doing.
comments, like leave us messages, and we want to eventually get a number where people can leave like voicemails and stuff. But leave us messages, DM us, like we'll get back to you, and let's just get this conversation going because I truly am looking forward to this next season. I feel like the first part of our life was, very selfless, and the
Mhm.
second part of your life can be a little selfish. So, and
Yeah,
that doesn't have to be a
exactly.
bad thing. So, and
Exactly.
our kids need to see this too. Like if you have daughters, they need to see this. If you have sons, they
Right.
need to see this. Show up for yourself and be so excited and on fire and in love with your life that your kids don't have to worry about any season that they're going to be experiencing, because this can be really fun and it can be enjoyable. It's just you have to do what's right for you. And it's not
Right.
going to look the same
Exactly.
for everyone. But
I
that's what we've
agree.
got to give, and hopefully you guys could get a few little tips and tricks from us, and just know that we're here. We're gonna be showing or sharing all the things that we've learned and helping you guys get through all the little stages that you are. And like we said, please share whatever works for you guys, and we'll pass it on. But it's exciting, and this is going to be okay, and we're in this together.
Yep, and I wanna
Yeah.
also just kinda tease, like, our one of our next episodes. I'm not sure if it's gonna be the next episode, so that would be the 3rd or the 4th, but maybe the next one because it would be a good segue because we've already been
Yeah.
talking about midlife and menopause, but, we really are gonna get more into this renaissance period that we've been going
Hmm.
through and how we've made changes in our lives and, how we've had the bravery to quit things, to start new
Hmm.
things, and so that's just a little teaser because it's very exciting and it could be a little bit controversial,
Yeah.
and it's very raw. So
Yeah.
hopefully you guys will come back and listen to our next episode, and we'll fill you in on all
Yes.
the
Yeah, it's gonna be
the
good.
good, the bad, and the it's going to be really good.
Yeah, exactly, and I mean, I think a lot of people, even with COVID, that really opened a lot of people's eyes, like with, "Am I living the life I want? Am I doing what I want?" That kind of thing, so
Yeah,
you'll
there was
hear
some
how
good that
April and
came
I
out of
have
it.
changed. Yeah,
Yep,
exactly, because, that's what happens, because honestly, like we said earlier, we're fine and neither are you, right? It's like no one
exactly.
is.
Right.
So, thank you so much,
But
you
we're
guys,
getting
for
there.
listening.
Yes,
Yeah, this
thank
has been a great
you.
episode, and we're excited to be doing this together. So, yeah.
All right. Good job, babe. Love you.
Yes. Okay, we'll talk to you guys next week.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to We Are Fine and Neither Are You. This podcast is all about spreading joy, knowledge, and laughter. While we strive to provide accurate information, please keep in mind that we're only human and mistakes happen. In addition, we would like to remind our listeners that the opinions expressed throughout this episode are for entertainment and informational purposes only. We do not claim to be experts in any particular field, and the content provided should not be taken as professional advice. We encourage you to consult with qualified professionals or do your own research before making any decisions based on the information shared in this podcast. Thank you for joining us, and remember to stay curious and critical in your pursuit of knowledge. Please like and subscribe below.